I hear from people all the time who say they wish they'd done more with their lives. I wish I'd taken more risks, traveled more, loved harder. But my regret is different. My name is Arthur. I'm 75 years old. And my brother died 6 weeks ago after 48 years of us barely speaking to each other. What I regret most is that I never told him I was sorry. Michael was 3 years older than me. Growing up, we were everything to each other. We shared a bedroom in our parents' tiny house in Pennsylvania. We had bunk beds, and he was on top. At night, after our mother turned off the lights, we'd talk for hours. He'd tell me about girls he liked, about wanting to be a pilot someday, about all the places he wanted to see. I was the quiet one. I mostly listened, but I loved those nights. I felt like I had access to a world I didn't understand yet, and Michael was my guide. When I was 17 and he was 20, everything changed. Our father passed away suddenly from a heart attack. He was only 51. It shattered our family. My mother fell into a grief so deep she could barely function. Michael and I had to step up. He was working at a garage by then, and I was still in high school. We pooled our money to keep the house running. For a while, it brought us even closer. We were a team. We didn't talk about our sadness much, but we didn't have to. We understood each other. But then Michael met a woman named Linda. She was older than him, divorced, with a young daughter. My mother didn't approve. She thought Linda was taking advantage of Michael, pulling him away from the family when we needed him most. I didn't say much at first. I liked Linda well enough. She was kind to me. But my mother kept pressing me to take her side, to talk sense into Michael. And I did. I told him I thought he was being selfish. I told him he was abandoning us. I said things I didn't fully believe, but I said them anyway, because I thought it was what I was supposed to do. Michael didn't yell. He just looked at me for a long time, and then he said, "I thought you of all people would understand." A month later, he married Linda and moved 2 states away. He called a few times in the beginning, but the conversations were stiff and uncomfortable. My mother refused to speak to him. I was caught in the middle, and instead of reaching out, I let the distance grow. I told myself it was his fault. He was the one who left. He was the one who chose someone else over his family. Years went by. I got married to a woman named Ellen. We had 2 daughters. I worked as an accountant for a manufacturing company. Life was steady and predictable. I thought about Michael often, especially during holidays, but I never picked up the phone. My mother passed away when I was 32, and Michael came to the funeral. We stood next to each other at the burial, but we barely spoke. I remember looking at him and thinking how much older he looked, how much like our father. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know how to start, so I said nothing. After that, we only exchanged Christmas cards, short, polite messages with no real substance. I'd see his handwriting on the envelope every December and feel a dull ache in my chest, but I never did anything about it. Ellen would ask me why I didn't just call him, and I'd make excuses. I'd say we were too different now, that too much time had passed, that it would be awkward. But the truth was, I was ashamed. I was ashamed of the things I'd said to him all those years ago, and I didn't know how to admit I'd been wrong. Michael had 2 sons with Linda. I saw pictures of them in the Christmas cards. They grew up, graduated, got married. I became a grandfather. So did he. Our lives ran parallel but separate, like train tracks that never touch. I told myself this was just how things were sometimes. Families drift apart. It's sad, but it's normal. I convinced myself I'd made peace with it. Then 6 weeks ago, I got a call from Linda. I hadn't heard her voice in decades. She was crying. She told me Michael had been sick for a while. Cancer? He'd been in treatment for over a year, but it wasn't working. He was in hospice now. She said he'd been asking for me. She said he wanted to see me before it was too late. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. Ellen was standing in the kitchen watching me, and I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost. After I hung up, I just sat there. Ellen asked what was wrong, and when I told her, she said, "You have to go, right now." I nodded, but I didn't move. I was terrified. I didn't know what I'd say. I didn't know if he was angry with me, if he'd even want to talk. I was afraid I'd go all that way and find out it was too late. But I went. I got in the car the next morning and drove 4 hours to the hospice center where he was staying. Linda met me in the hallway. She hugged me, and I realized I was shaking. She led me to his room. The door was half open. I could see him lying in the bed, and for a moment I almost turned around. He looked so small, so fragile. Nothing like the big brother I remembered. But then he opened his eyes and saw me, and he smiled. It wasn't a big smile. He didn't have the strength for that, but it was real. He said my name, and I walked over and sat down next to him. I didn't know what to say, so I just took his hand. His skin was cold and papery. He looked at me for a long time, and then he said, "I'm glad you came." I started crying. I couldn't help it. I told him I was sorry. I told him I should have called years ago, that I should have been there, that I'd been a coward. He squeezed my hand as hard as he could, which wasn't very hard, and he said, "It's okay. I forgive you." And then he said, "I'm sorry too." We talked for about an hour. It wasn't deep or poetic. We didn't solve anything. We just talked about our lives, our kids, our memories. He told me he'd thought about me all the time. He said he'd wanted to reach out too, but didn't know how. We laughed about the bunk beds, about the nights we'd stay up talking. He said those were some of the best memories of his life. I told him they were mine too. Before I left, he said something I'll never forget. He said, "Don't wait, Arthur. If there's something you need to say to someone, don't wait. You think you have time, but you don't." I promised him I wouldn't. I kissed him on the forehead and told him I loved him. He said he loved me too. I walked out of that room, and I knew it was the last time I'd see him alive. He died 3 days later. I spoke at his funeral. I told everyone there about the brother I'd lost twice. Once when I pushed him away, and once when he left this world. I told them about the 48 years we wasted being too proud and too scared to fix what was broken. And I told them what he told me: don't wait. I think about Michael every single day. I think about all the birthdays and holidays and ordinary moments we could have shared. I think about how my daughters barely knew their uncle, how his sons barely knew me. I think about how much richer all of our lives could have been if I'd just picked up the phone. The thing about regret is it doesn't come all at once. It builds slowly, year after year, until one day you realize you've been carrying it so long, it's become part of you. And by then, it's too late to put it down. I can't get those years back. I can't undo the silence, but I can tell you this. If there's someone in your life you've lost touch with, someone you hurt, or who hurt you, someone you've been meaning to call but haven't, do it now. Don't tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow or next month or when the time is right. The time is right now. I'm 75 years old, and I've learned that life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't care about your pride or your fear or your excuses. It just keeps moving, and before you know it, the people you love are gone. Don't let that happen. Don't make the same mistake I did, because I promise you, the pain of reaching out and being rejected is nothing compared to the pain of never reaching out at all. Michael taught me that. I just wish I'd learned it sooner.